Barratt, we're trying to make our developments more sustainable, but we want our customers to join into that journey and make their lives more sustainable. So if you just wanted to start with you, Courtney, and what you do and how maybe we can influence our purchasers, how they can make their new homes more sustainable.
Okay, so I am an upcycler. I'm an upholster, and I've been doing it for maybe 6 or 7 years now. And my whole passion is about not throwing anything away, literally keeping it, because often at some stage you'll find a use for it, and if you don't find a use, maybe your neighbor will find a use. And if you get to a stage whereby you just can't continue to have it in your house hanging onto it, there are so many places that you can take it to. Charity shops, the tip, if we're talking about furniture, so many charity shops now take larger pieces of furniture. There's so many. There's one in Gosport called Hub something or other, and it takes your furniture and gives it out to those who most need it, who can't afford it at all. Yeah. So there's just so many options in these days now that it doesn't have to go to landfill. Yeah, I love that idea of helping your neighbours. We're creating new communities, and actually you can work with your neighbours, and maybe you don't need something for your house, but they do, and a lot of people are saying that they can't afford to be sustainable because they think it's more expensive, but actually you could do something which would save somebody else or save yourself more money. And you, Sue, so what is it that you do?
So I'm a declutterer, home organiser, but I train with Marie Kondo. So I trained with Marie 5 years ago, and rather than just going into people's homes and getting a big black bag out to help them throw things away, we talk a lot right at the start of the process about ideal lifestyle and how you envisage living your lifestyle. So it's great when I've got people that are moving, because we talk about their new home, how they want to live in their new home. And then what I do is I help them go through their belongings before they actually make that move, to make sure that what they're taking with them will fit and leads into their life going forward in that home. But also working with someone like myself, we know how to move things on sustainably. So when I talk about moving things on, it's not about throwing things in the bin, it's about reusing them within your home because you might find a different purpose for it. It's about recycling it, it's about passing it on to other people. There are lots of charities that I work with who will come to your home and collect things from you, or you can send them off. And there's Scratch in Southampton as well, which is a similar sort of charity where they take bigger items of furniture and will help people in their homes that are maybe just getting set up or can't afford.
I think that's one of the biggest barriers, is people don't know where to go. If it's not, we live it. That's what our jobs are, so we know it. So I think one of the biggest things would be to have a list of all these places, compile something where you can either go and buy or take, or I think that would be really useful to your purchasers. Yeah, and what about if somebody was a first-time buyer? Obviously, they don't have items already necessary to either upcycle or to organise.
So a first-time buyer moving forward is about understanding what you actually need. I think a lot of people will hold on to the things they've got just in case, and I think actually it's not always sustainable to hold on to things, because by holding on to things that you're keeping in your cupboards and not using, they haven't got that second life that they deserve, and actually passing it on to a charity or something like that would give them the second life. But for people that are first-time buyers moving in, making sure your home is completely organised so you know where everything is, and having things so that you can see them in the cupboards. Quite often I'll go into kitchens and there'll be the same item 3 or 4 times throughout the kitchen. It's because they haven't been organised, and you buy an extra thing, or I quite often work with people who say, I've been looking for that for ages, and you've just pulled out 2 or 3. I think my record on those travel cups that you used to get them from conferences, the ones that are branded, 15 in one house. Well, actually, they only used 2. So by passing those on to someone else that will use them at a school or something like that, a football team, then they're creating space in their home, and everything then gets used, rather than it's sitting there not being used at all. I think one of the biggest things is people don't give enough time. Okay. So this is not a quick process. It's not a shoot, we got to clear this out, we're moving in 2 weeks, and everything goes to the tip. I think that is what causes there's often panic around it. I'm assuming you find that, I've got too much stuff, maybe some anxiety, and then all of a sudden it just needs to go.
So I think it's got to be like you said, more of a plan as to what we actually need. Going through drawers, not all at once, but over the course of a longer period of time. Do like one room in a weekend, and then just stick to that, so it just doesn't become too overwhelming. But I think allowing more time when you're doing this to think about it and then action these things is quite a good.
I think starting as soon as you're thinking about moving is always a really good thing, because we know that process can take 3 months plus. If you've got a home that's less cluttered, it's more likely to sell. It's going to be more attractive to buyers. So actually moving through it quite slowly, and as you say, it's not all day every day tidying up. It's literally just having a list of things that you need to do and ticking it off as you go along. And when I'm working with people, I quite often say, the first step is, if you're moving something on, can it go to friends and family? Then can you sell it? Is it Facebook Marketplace? Is it eBay? Is it Vinted? Make a little bit of money and reinvest that money, but that product is then going on and being used. And then there are charity shops. So it's always like a 2 or 3 step process to try and move things on in the best way, but it takes time. And it's just setting aside that time to do it.
And what about with the first time buyers looking for new items? Obviously they might be gifted items. I know that a lot of people, parents have got things they don't need anymore, and they give they give things which maybe aren't to their taste. What would you suggest for those sorts of things? Because that could save them some money.
It could definitely save them some money, and friends and neighbours, my daughter's school recently said we've had a Ukrainian family living with us. Does anybody have any furniture? Well, literally all the parents, like there's over 100 of parents in the class. We kitted out their entire home. Washing machines, dishwashers, you name it, all good quality that we didn't know what to do with. And we could literally filled an entire house. So yes, it might not be your taste, but there might be sentimental value behind it. And then if there is sentimental value, there are things you can do, like really simple things. You don't have to strip the whole piece of furniture back or and take hours sanding it. You can just put a little bit of paint on, with a bit of a key and Annie Sloan paint. There's loads of paints out there, Rust-Oleum, and they're very easy, and they're not, although the prices have gone up a little bit recently, they're not hugely unaffordable.
We actually have done a sustainable show home at one of our developments, so we wanted to bring the outside in and use sustainable things, so they'd sort of all the furniture as well, so it was like the corks on the top of they were reused and then made tables out of them, so it was all from sustainable sources. So we are trying to encourage people, and hopefully when they're looking around the show home they'll think, well actually I've been saving all these corks, or I've got all this furniture I don't need or don't want, maybe I could actually make it to something I do want or do need.
Definitely. One of the really easiest things, I don't know if you've ever done anything like this, is just using wallpaper. You take let's say a chest of drawers, and you've got panels on the side, and maybe you would have to do it with flat furniture. You take the handles off, you wallpaper it, you get a little bit of sanding paper, and you just feather the edges. Bob's your uncle. That's all you have to do. You might want to put a little bit of a top coat on, like a varnish or something like that, just to seal it, so that finger oils and stuff like that don't get on it. And it literally transforms. You've got nice wood outlined and your choice of wallpaper.
So how did you both get into doing what you do?
I took a sabbatical from work because my son was just about to go to uni, and I was the mum that was coming home from work and cooking and putting my laptop on, and I thought actually in this last year, it's a bit late because he was 18 at this stage, maybe I ought to be a bit more present. And a friend gave me the book, and we'd both been working full time, my husband and I, and our home was just, I wouldn't say it was cluttered, but cupboards were full of life, basically, because during the weeks we were working, every weekend was sports and taking the kids and having nice family time, and we hadn't set aside the time, as we said earlier, to do that clearing out. So I read Marie's book and worked through it, and then just had this sudden aha moment of, this is why it works. I'm not shuffling things around and tidying up and putting things in drawers anymore. I'm actually deciding what we need now going forward and keeping the stuff that's really important to us. It's not all about getting rid of stuff at all. It's about selecting the stuff that enhances your life and then finding homes for other things. And it made such a difference to how we live. And I do find this with everybody I work through. If you work through your whole home and you see the volume of stuff you've got and the duplication, it does change the way you shop. It really does. And most of the clients I work with then become more conscious consumers, because you're much more aware of what you're bringing into your home and what you've already got in your home and what you don't need anymore.
Yeah.
So there's a definite shift from the I want to actually it's what I need.
Yeah.
And it's really rewarding.
Those panic buys can kind of go by the wayside.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it means that actually everyday people can get into doing what you do, and they just need to maybe change their mindset and think about what they're buying, or think about how they're organising themselves. It's not that they have to be a set person. Anybody can do it.
Anybody can do it. And the beauty of the way the method works that I work with, the KonMari method, is that it is literally step by step.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be doing loads in one go. You can just tick something off, like we were saying about it's just a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
And it is a little bit addictive.
Yeah.
So I think once people start to see what they're doing and see the results, that's the motivation to continue.
I've seen quite a few posts on Instagram for like the KonMari things, with people putting things in glass jars with labels and things like that. Is that all quite sustainable? How are they all doing that? So they're reusing things, or is that?
So I wouldn't say that was KonMari. So I think there's an awful lot of beautifying on Instagram going on, and it can look lovely. And if that is how you want your home to look, then we can deliver that, absolutely, or you can choose to do that. What I always say to people as a first point is, let's organise what you've got in your space. Let's make sure that what you've got is what you need. Use what you have to organise things. So if you want to try decanting things for it to look pretty, it functionally it works quite well because you can see what you've got, but don't go out and buy loads of new stuff first. Use what you've got. So Tupperware, takeaway cartons, or anything
just
like that.
Jars
exactly
that come in with sauce in them and stuff.
Make sure that system works for you, because there's no point in spending loads of money on something that potentially the system doesn't work, it's too much faff, or you don't like it, you can't keep it up. If you do like it, most people find that actually they're more than happy with how their cupboards look. They don't need to go out and spend lots and lots of money buying nice pretty things for their cupboards. A jar that shuts properly, and you can just put a little label on it, and then just sorted.
And what about, obviously one of the benefits of buying a new home is that they're a blank canvas. If you're living by this very organised lifestyle, does that mean that you're then not putting personality into that?
The whole idea is you're creating a space that supports the lifestyle you want to live. So it's about choosing the things that you want to be able to do in your life, rather than having and everyone's different. Some of the people I work with are minimalists completely and just want completely clear surfaces. Other people want a more lived in environment, and it works both ways. The difference is they are choosing what they want to support their lifestyle at the moment. So you can make it work for you however you want it to look. It's a bit more difficult if it's a couple that want really divergent things, but there's compromise in every relationship, isn't there? So it's about choosing the way that works. The beauty of doing it this way is it's bespoke to you.
And what about for, in a similar way, obviously with the blank canvas, putting character into your new home? You don't actually have to have new furniture, because I think there is a big stigma that you have to have new furniture when you get a new home. But actually, you probably can.
It's like Sue said, you've got to be true to what you love and who you are at the end of the day. I posted about this today, and a couple of my followers came up going, I've got a Barratt home, I've got a David Wilson home, and all of my stuff is upcycled or recycled or comes from my granny, and they've sent me pictures. They look beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful, and it doesn't look like old furniture in a new build in the slightest. I know one lady made a huge blue wall and then put her gold furniture against it. You make it as you want to make it.
Because I think people do worry about that. They buy a new home and they think, oh, well, I can't bring the old furniture I've got with me because it's going to look silly in my new home. But actually we want to break that. You don't need to do that. And if it's maybe that you don't like it anymore, that's a different reason that you might want to get rid of it. But actually, rather than just throwing it out, there is plenty of other ways that you've been discussing that they can do something new with it, or pass it on to a charity, a friend, a neighbour, or somebody else that can make some use out of it.
Yeah, definitely.
We joined you yesterday for you to do an organisation day in a kitchen from one of our Barratt homeowners. What I learned from that is obviously the importance of maybe removing some of the things you don't need before you move so that you don't have to do it once you've moved.
I think there were two things that really stood out for me yesterday. So the first was there were a few bits and pieces in the cupboards that when we talked about whether they were used or not, it was like, well, we haven't used it. In fact, we haven't used it since the baby was born, which was 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And they moved in November, so those had come with them. So there's something around downsizing or making sure that what you're bringing with you for your kitchen, for your linen cupboard, all those sorts of things are the things that you're actually using at the moment. Yeah. And the second thing was when you unpack in your home after you've moved, I think there is such a volume of boxes. The temptation is just to get everything unpacked, to get rid of the boxes and put it away. And one of the things Adam was very clear about was actually when it came to the kitchen, we just put things in all the cupboards and we haven't revisited it since. So going through things in a really orderly fashion before you move, and this is just spacing things out week by week and ticking things off. So the kitchen cupboards, think of it like things that you cook with, things that you eat off of. And get everything out and just have a real look of, if I've got 6 saucepans, which ones are the ones that I go for? And I know Marie talks about things that spark joy for you. Okay. And for me, that's, it's slightly easier for people to understand that with clothes because you'll hold something up and, it's something you love. Yeah. When it comes to something really functional like saucepans, who's going to think a saucepan sparks joy? Yeah. But realistically, there will be saucepans that you automatically reach for because they are the right weight for you, or they work better on the cooker, they heat up more quickly, all those things. You naturally go for the same things. Yeah. There'll be things in the back of your cupboards in your home that you're in at the moment that you haven't touched in years. There may be the big casserole dish that actually is so heavy it only comes out once in a blue moon, and if you've got something else you can use instead of that, that's an easier way of getting rid of things. If you think, well, if I don't have that, I could use that and that. So go through that first. Any plates that are chipped, that when you've got lots of other plates, maybe that's an easy way to think about letting them go. Smash them up and put them in a plant pot is what I do with my chip plates. Linen cupboards, when we buy linen, bed linen, new duvet sets, wherever I go to people's homes that are downsizing, there'll be the last 20 years worth of duvet covers in the house. Because you buy a new duvet cover, you don't always get rid of the old one, just in case. Yeah. But realistically, you don't need probably more than 2 or 3 per bed. And charity shops will take good, clean, things like that to reuse. Or give them to the kids that are going to uni, all that sort of stuff. There are so many ways to get rid of it. But you then bring what you're using at the moment into the new home. Yeah. So that's the downsizing or the moving with what you need first. And then if you've done that and the boxes can be packed with the rooms written on them or the cupboards written on them, then it makes it really easy the other end to be able to put things away or to leave a box for a couple of weeks and think, actually, I don't need to unpack that yet. It's not something we need at the moment. I know where it's going to go. And in the kitchen cupboards, storing things that are similar together is a real obvious. So yesterday, the whole 15, I don't know how many drinks bottles and things he had, they were in slightly different places. So actually just grouping things together, because then it makes it super easy for everyone in the home to know where things are and to put them away.
Just thinking about saving money, a lot of people, especially if you're buying your first home, you won't have a lot of money. Your money will have gone onto that home. Yeah. So if you are able to, places like the Tip, a lot of the Tips, especially in Hampshire, they all have places where you can, as a consumer, bring your furniture and it will get sold on. Yeah. And like 10, 15, sometimes £20 for a chest of drawers. Yeah. And it might not be to your taste, but it may just get you through to living in that space and seeing how you're gonna live in it, what you want it to look like. And then it can then move on in 6 months or a year.
But actually you could make it to your taste.
Or you could make it to your taste. And I think
doing some upcycling.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is, I know a lot of people get kind of like I wouldn't want to mess it up, I wouldn't want to screw it up. Really, at the end of the day, it's a bit of paint. Yeah. And if you are able to plan it where you think you want to put the paint, Pinterest is an amazing place to go and get ideas. Just type in painted wardrobes or painted chest of drawers, and you'll start to see, put yourself a mood board together. You'll start to see what you like, and then you can look at the when you go into Rowan's has a lot of furniture. The British Heart Foundation has a lot of furniture stores. You can then visualize what you like, whether that piece is going to work, and honestly, there's YouTube. It's so easy. You put a bit of paint on, and you make a mistake, you paint over it.
But you spoke about the fact that when you started doing this, you just tested something on your daughter's furniture. So it doesn't need to be something that you already know how to do. Exactly. You learn as you go.
Yeah, absolutely. So literally my daughter and I read on the Annie Sloan website how to use her paint. And we just thought, let's do it.
Give it a go.
And it was such a lovely time, her and I together. And I look back at it now, it's still up there and she still loves it. And I think, why did I put that distressing right in the middle of that's not where it should have gone, but it doesn't really matter because most people don't look at a piece and go, oh, that one particular tiny little piece doesn't look quite right. They'll look at they step back, they see the whole piece as opposed to that one tiny little mistake that might have been done in the corner, that you'll remember for the rest of your life. People don't see that. They come into a room and they see the bigger picture.
And that piece of furniture probably is a better piece of furniture than maybe if it was made out of MDF or if it was a cheaper a bit of furniture that somebody might have been gone to the shops to buy.
So a lot of them now are MDF and sometimes glued together, not properly joined. If you go and get a nice like even 60s, 70s, obviously later it's all proper joinery. Any furniture later than that, 60s, 70s. I don't know if I've seen a lot of 80s furniture, but you get good quality. It's solid. The drawers work. The MDF doesn't swell. It's just it's a lovely way to keep furniture going in this day and age of chucking things out.
I love the circular thing you talked about, the fact that you can, I don't think anything's ever necessarily permanent, and you've said that, you can paint something and if it's not right, you can change it, but equally, you can just then move it on Facebook Marketplace or something like that, just give someone else the opportunity to use that piece of furniture as well. Absolutely. So, you might be buying into a home and not having very much and bringing a few bits and pieces in relatively cheaply. They then you can make your money back on them and maybe even more.
Especially if you upcycle it, and if you upcycle it to a certain standard, definitely. And there's lots of places online to learn how to do it. If you don't have the money to afford for someone else to do it. So
a lot of people are actually downsizing, so we have quite a lot of people who are deciding to move from a large 5-bedroom house and maybe they're moving into a new area and they don't want to take everything with them.
The obvious conversation is, how are you going to live in that space? Are you going to be entertaining still? Are you going to be having people to stay? Because, maybe they're going from a 5-bedroom to a 2 or a 3-bedroom property. Is that spare room going to be a spare room, or is it going to be a study, or is it going to be multi-purpose? So really understanding the purpose of the move and how they feel their lives are downsizing or changing moving forward, because this is all about the future. This isn't about how you've been living in the past. And then I basically walk around their home with them and we create an itinerary of these are the things that we think are going to go, because they've already seen their property and they've got this vision of what's going to go into which room. And we literally start to work through starting big with the big furniture, but never forgetting what's inside that furniture, because that also has to go somewhere if they're losing it. So that creates a really lovely plan with the floor plan as well as to what's coming with you. And then working through room by room, or category, as I like to work by category. So we'll then look at clothes, because we'll know what the wardrobe space is going to be like in the new place. Looking at the kitchen. So just starting to downsize. You don't need the 3 dinner services if you're not going to be entertaining anymore. Use the nice stuff every day. Enjoy it. There's no point in keeping stuff for best. Have fun with it. Enjoy it. If it breaks, you've probably got another 10 plates. And we just work through like that. But it does take 2 or 3 months to go through that process in a really thoughtful and mindful way, because this isn't just that rush at the end.
So you both have some great ideas of where people can take their unwanted furniture, or even to go and buy some furniture that maybe is unwanted from somebody else. You've kindly put together a list for our listeners to be able to cite these things.
Most of the tips nowadays have places that you can go and purchase from. There are loads of charities, but I'll put a list, as I said, I'll put the list together.
And also on my website, there's a page which is all about where you can let things go. So covering things from glasses, clothes, all those sorts of things. So that's the moving things out in a more sustainable way.
Perfect. Well, I've learnt a lot today, so hopefully our listeners will also be able to benefit whilst they're moving into their new homes.
Yeah, good luck.
Thank you.